Remember the first time you met her? That cold mechanical voice echoing through the empty test chambers?
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center.
GLaDOS. By the end of this video, you'll never look at that passive-aggressive AI the same way again. The AI that defined a generation of gaming. The voice that followed you through pristine white corridors, that promised you cake, that made you laugh, and the journey she put you through. It has more in common with the psychological devastation of Evangelion than anyone has ever acknowledged. On the surface, Portal and Evangelion couldn't seem more different. Once a sterile, minimalist puzzle game about physics and momentum, released in 2007 when many of us were just entering high school or starting college. The other, a chaotic anime about teenage trauma and apocalyptic weaponry, that hit Western shores in the late 90s and early 2000s, finding its way onto Adult Swim into the hands of night owl teenagers looking for something deeper than Dragon Ball Z. Blood-soaked battles, teens forced into piloting, but beneath these surface differences lies a structural symmetry that's almost eerie. Think back to how you felt playing Portal for the first time. That growing unease at GLaDOS's commands became more unhinged. The dawning realization that something was deeply wrong with this facility, with this voice following your every move. Now recall watching Evangelion, perhaps on a worn-out DVD or a fuzzy TV broadcast. The way the angel appeared, incomprehensible, geometric. The way each encounter left Shinji more broken than before. Both experiences share something crucial: containment. Both Portal and Evangelion trap emotionally stunted protagonists inside mechanical systems designed to expose their deepest weaknesses. Shell, silent, determined, trapped in endless test chambers with no context, no explanation. Just the promise that success leads to more tests, more chambers, more GLaDOS. Shinji Ikari, abandoned, desperate for approval, forced into the entry plug of Unit 1 by a father who can barely look at him. Remember how it felt? The sensation that the world was tasting you constantly, that idols had designed systems you couldn't possibly understand, but were expected to navigate. That's what made these stories resonate so powerfully with us as teenagers and young adults. They externalized the very real feeling that someone somewhere was watching us fail, measuring our responses, cataloging our breakdowns. GLaDOS and the Angels aren't just antagonists. They're the embodiment of systems that don't care about your humanity, only your performance.
The Enrichment Center reminds you that the weighted companion cube cannot speak. In the event that the weighted companion cube does speak, the Enrichment Center urges you to disregard its advice.
Sounds familiar? It should, because it's the same cold assessment Nerve gives Shinji. Your job is to pilot the Evangelion, nothing more. Let's break down GLaDOS, literally, because she isn't just a standalone character, she's a mosaic, a synthesis of several angels rolled into one elegant, sociopathic woman-shaped algorithm. Remember Arael, the angel of light that never physically touched Asuka but instead pierced her mind from orbit, broadcasting raw memory and trauma directly into her consciousness? GLaDOS does the same. She cuts Shell with voice alone. Not turrets, not deadly flaws, but with clinical, surgical, psychological warfare.
You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
She taunts your irrelevance, questions your worth, reminds you of your abandonment.
It says so right here in your personnel file. Unlikable, liked by no one. A bitter, unlikable loner whose passing shall not be mourned.
GLaDOS forces Shell to confront her status as a test subject. Disposable, replaceable, or consider Leliel, the angel that appeared as a black and white shadow, a void between dimensions. It consumed Shinji's Evangelion unit and trapped him in a dreamlike abyss where he was forced into a monologue with himself, isolated and dissolving. GLaDOS builds chambers with no exit, puzzles with no solution. She locks you into sterile loops where your only companion is her voice and your own determination. You are both the lab rat and the observer. Remember that moment when you finally realized that Portal wasn't going to let you escape? The sudden understanding that the system had never intended to release you? That's pure Evangelion. The realization that the structures you trusted are designed to use you completely. What makes this comparison truly devastating is how both GLaDOS and the Angels operate through three distinct emotional frequencies, each one designed to break down different aspects of your psyche. First, black comedy. GLaDOS is funny, that's the problem. She talks about your death like it's an office memo.
Please be advised that a noticeable taste of blood is not part of any test protocol, but is an unintended side effect of the Aperture Science Material Emancipation Grill.
Laughter was the only appropriate response to such casual cruelty. Evangelion does the same. Misato's alcoholism, Gendo's absentee parenting, all wrapped in dry, bitter dialogue that makes you chuckle before you realize what you're laughing at. You were supposed to notice how numb you'd become. Second, existential dread. Shell is voiceless, GLaDOS talks at Shell, never with her. Shinji pours his heart out into a void that never responds. Neither truly understands the system they trapped in. They are surrounded by machinery, literal and psychological, that strips them of autonomy. And the worst part, you keep going, you keep solving, you keep piloting. Because the alternative is silence, and silence is death. Third, surreal absurdity. Portal physics, companion cubes, cake, Evangelion's LCL, giant ghostly ray, the Human Instrumentality Project. These worlds operate by their own internal logic, unfamiliar, dreamlike, mechanical. They don't explain themselves. They seduce you into accepting meaninglessness as fact. Remember the first time you saw the scroll messages on Portal's walls? Or when Evangelion's final episodes abandoned conventional animation for sketches, still frames, and psychological breakdowns? These weren't just artistic choices. They were ruptures in reality itself. That's where the fourth wall cracked just enough to let you know that something wasn't right. Not just in the story, but in the medium itself. For anyone who felt the weight of expectations, anyone who tried to create something meaningful in a world that seemed increasingly artificial, these parallels hit different. Because both Portal and Evangelion are ultimately about artistic annihilation. GLaDOS is the inner critic, elegant, relentless, cruel. The voice in your head that says, this isn't good enough. Remember college projects that never felt finished, job applications that never felt perfect, relationships where you couldn't quite express what you needed. GLaDOS was there, in your head, judging. The angels are metaphors for all the things that block creativity and authentic existence. Fear of connection, imposter syndrome, parental pressure, ego death. They are what it feels like to dare to make something in a world that doesn't care if you succeed. Or worse, punishes you when you do. This is why these experiences from our formative years, from those late nights with controllers in hand or eyes glued to Adult Swim, still resonate so deeply. They weren't just entertainment, they were reflection of our own internal struggles, externalized in neon and binary code. So maybe GLaDOS is an angel, not a holy one, not a savior, but a catalyst. She's not there to kill Shell, she's there to break her open, to hollow out everything she thought she was, to turn the test chamber into a mirror. And Shinji, he doesn't save the world, he barely saves himself. Because the stories aren't about triumph, they're about survival in systems that cannot be won, and even that is temporary. For a generation raised on participation trophies and standardized tests, on helicopter parenting and early internet isolation, these ambiguous endings felt more honest than any triumphant boss defeat or a saved princess. And if you're one of the lucky ones who hasn't experienced either, what are you waiting for?